It's the largest object ever discovered by humanity. It drains the energy from light that passes through it, and the standard scientific models for creation have no explanation for it. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is Skywatch TV News for April 23rd of 2015. I'm talking about a dark blob about 1.8 billion years across, discovered by astrophysicists about 10 years ago. They don't know why, but for some reason this region of space has far fewer galaxies in it than expected, and it's much colder than the surrounding areas of space. They think it's because light, for some reason, is drained of its energy as it passes through this blob. But again, the standard models for creation, the Big Bang and what have you, have no explanation for why this area should even exist. Now, if that isn't weird enough, astronomers are also aware of another object out there that we can't see, called the Great Attractor. We don't know where it is, how big it is, or how what will happen when we get there, but we're being pulled toward it, us and the rest of the Milky Way, at 14 million miles per hour. Again, the Great Attractor. We can't see it. We know that it's there because of its action upon us, but what happens when we get there? Still a mystery. The former Defense Minister of Canada, Paul Heller, says that not only do aliens exist, but the governments of the world know about it, and they're keeping it a secret. He was addressing at the Disclosure Canada tour. Paul Heller is the former Defense Minister of Canada, served between 1963 and 1967. He's now 91 years old, and he says that aliens have been visiting Earth for thousands of years, and they're not very impressed with the way we live. Ronald Reagan apparently thought that the threat of invasion from outer space was real. At a meeting in 1985, he asked former Russian Premier Mikhail Gorbachev for his help in defending the Earth against a possible attack from outer space. Now, then National Security Advisor, Deputy National Security Advisor Colin Powell, who later went on to serve as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Secretary of State under George W. Bush, was mortified at this public statement. And according to a new book, he spent the last couple years of the president's life removing interplanetary references from Mr. Reagan's speeches. So we told you earlier this week, researchers in China have now made official in a published paper that they've successfully changed the DNA composition of human embryos. They were working with embryos to remove a gene that could cause a potentially deadly blood disorder. Now, in order to avoid criticism or defuse criticism, they said that they were working with non-viable embryos, human embryos that would never be brought to term. But critics are alarmed. They say that China right now is a wild west of genetic engineering and DNA manipulation, and that this type of research should be stopped. Why? Because these changes affect the germline. They affect human eggs and human sperm. And so these changes can be passed down from generation to generation. Critics are concerned that this could lead to a new eugenics movement as the wealthy seek to guarantee that their children will have natural genetic advantages, health, intelligence, good looks, over the rest of us. Human exceptionalism, a concept under fire. We talked a bit about this yesterday during our brief discussion of Earth Day. Humans are exceptional because we have been created in the image of God. Now, this does not mean that God is a humanoid biped. It means that we have been created as his imagers, if you will, his moral agents, to serve in roughly the same capacity over Earth that he serves over the entire cosmos. But this is an idea that is coming under fire from secularists. A judge in New York yesterday, for example, issued a writ of habeas corpus for a pair of chimpanzees currently being held for biomedical research. Now, habeas corpus is a legal ruling that requires that a prisoner who's being held be brought to court and cause shown for this person's arrest. Now, in the state of New York, only a legal person may have an order for cause, or an order to show cause, rather, or a writ of habeas corpus issued on his or her behalf. So by issuing this ruling, the judge in New York is implying that these chimpanzees, Hercules and Leo, are, under the law, persons. This is a trend to watch. This is happening around the world. It is a trend to replace the idea of human exceptionalism, the idea that human life has value, simply because we are human, with the concept of personhood. And that personhood is a state, a legal state, that can be conveyed on any species, even artificial intelligences, if they meet a certain minimum level of cognition. So you could have non-human persons, such as dolphins or chimpanzees, but you could also have non-person humans, small infants who aren't yet self-aware. People who've suffered severe head trauma or suffer from some sort of cognitive disability could be declared non-persons under the law and stripped of their protection under the law. That should be our right, our God-given right as humans. This trend to consider human life as valuable only if it is productive or meets a certain minimum standard of a certain quality of life is well underway. In Europe, for example, a survey in the Netherlands of general practitioners, physicians, showed that 1/3 of Dutch general practitioners would be willing to help a person with a mental illness commit suicide. Not a person facing a fatal illness, but a person with a mental illness. And nearly 20% said they would be willing to assist in the death of a patient with no physical illness whatsoever, but someone who is simply tired of living. The Supreme Court in Canada recently declared euthanasia a constitutional right, and there are calls from professional groups in Canada to compel doctors to comply with requests to assist in suicide. Very soon, doctors there, and perhaps even here in America, the United States, may be forced to choose between their calling, their career, and their conscience. And this is why the Religious Freedom Restoration Act in Indiana and laws like it are so important. Not because of the issue of homosexual marriage, but because this issue, where doctors could object on moral grounds to being compelled to kill a patient and have legal protection. The world doesn't want that. The world wants to deny the idea that humans are exceptional simply because we've been created in the image of God. In fact, a news service in California with ties to the healthcare industry just published an article that suggests that we should give up this outdated idea of the annual physical checkup because they're expensive and they usually don't catch any diseases anyway. And conservatives who complained about the idea of Obamacare death panels were called crazy. Scholars in Israel are furious. New carpet has been laid in the cave beneath the Dome of the Rock, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which occupies the site of the Temple of Solomon, it's believed, covered up previously undiscovered ancient floor decorations that some researchers believe might hold clues to the location of the Ark of the Covenant. Well, before the state of Israel was aware that the carpeting was being replaced and had a chance to examine these decorations, the carpet has been laid. You just see a glimpse of it here in the image there. Israel and the Muslim Authority that oversees the Temple Mount have been at odds over work there for years and years. Archaeology and politics make a bad mix. And one final note, the Shroud of Turin goes on display this Sunday for the first time in 5 years. More than 1 million people have already signed up to get a free ticket and a look at the Shroud. It will be on display at Turin through June 24th. Part 2 of our 5-part series On the Path of the Immortals is available online now. If you didn't get a chance to see it on the Christian Television Network Tuesday night, you can see it at our website, skywatchtv.com, or our official YouTube channel. And you see the address here. You can also watch our weekly show and these daily reports on our Roku channel, and instructions on how to add our Roku channel to your account are available at our website, skywatchtv.com. Keep watching. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is Skywatch TV.